All right. My name is Carlton Cartwright. I'm the Executive Director for the Children's Coalition Incorporated. And today's date is April 21,
8/20.
the 20th, 4/20/2019. And we are at the home of
Thomas Strong.
Tom. And what is your birthday, sir?
12/26/1944.
And your current address?
5480 North Ocean Drive, Unit PHAD, at Singer Island, Florida. And the zip is 33404.
Right. And the other person attending the interview is Augustine Gonzalez, who is my camera operator, my cinematographer, and let's see, the association again is the Children's Coalition Incorporated. If I didn't say that before, here we go. So, Tom, what branch of the service were you in?
I was in the United States Army from 1965 to 1967.
What year did the Vietnam War end? Remember?
Yeah, I think it was around 74.
Okay,
75.
so it was during that period.
Oh, right at the height of the war.
Yeah, right, there you go. All right, so where did you say you served?
I was, after finishing my basic and everything, I was detailed to the Fort Myer base in Arlington, Virginia as part of the Honor Guard. And subsequently, I was selected to go to Fort McNair in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I was with the purely ceremonial unit of the Old Guard, the President's Own.
Okay, and I think I'm not sure. Anyway, tell me what branch you were in again.
U.S. Army.
Okay. What was your rank when you separated?
Spec 4.
Okay, and what were you doing? You already told me that you were drafted.
Yes, that's
right. Okay, you were drafted. And where were you living at the time you were drafted?
I was living in Oxon Hill, Maryland.
Okay, and what were you doing at the time?
I was working for a food store, Giant Food, in the area. I was a deli manager, and I was on the fast track to becoming a manager with them.
Why did you join?
I got drafted
Oh, okay.
in 1965, and a lot of people were running up to Canada, but I felt like it was my duty to go and do what I was supposed to do.
So, I know you got drafted, but was that the branch you wanted to go in, or?
Probably, if I selected one of the four, that probably would have been.
That would have been it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. You recall your first days in the service?
Yes, vividly.
So you were living, what city? In
Oxon Hill, Maryland, just outside of D.C.
Okay, so where did you enter into the military?
In Baltimore, Maryland, Fort Holabird in Baltimore, Maryland. That's where I took the oath.
All right, and where did you go after that?
To Fort Jackson, South Carolina for my basic training. And got a little bit of an interesting story about that if you want it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Okay. The first day I arrived at Fort Jackson, I was informed that the U.S. Army was in the process of adopting a new weapon for the military. We were fighting in the jungle. We didn't have the weapon to fight with. We were working with an M14 stock rifle, which was not conducive to jungle warfare. So I was in the first unit platoon to ever touch an M16 rifle.
Oh, really?
And we charted every shot we fired. And then I went to advanced infantry training. We continued to carry that weapon, and eventually that was the weapon that was adopted by the Army as the weapon of choice for Vietnam.
Okay. Tell me about basic training now.
Basic training, I was very fit. I was athletic. I was a 3-star athlete. I could do anything. So the physicality of the job fit me well. They'd have these physical aptitude tests, and I'd ace all of those. I enjoyed that part of it because I was ahead of a lot of the guys there. I had a staff sergeant grab me the first day. So, what's your serial number, son? I said, don't know. He said, well, by God, you'll know it tomorrow morning after breakfast, won't you? The next morning, he said, what's your serial number? US 526194663, sir. So.
Okay. How many weeks was basic training?
Let's see, I think it was 8 weeks of basic,
okay,
as I recall.
And did you go to tech school after that?
I went to advanced infantry training.
Okay.
Which was, yeah, if you went to advanced infantry training, you were probably going to Vietnam at that point.
Where did you go?
Same place, Fort Jackson.
Oh, right there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So this was all part of that weapon adoption program I was in.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was that MOS? What was it called?
You had infantry.
Infantry. Oh, okay. All right, all right. So you had a fill of that, and then you went to tech school. Was it
No, just
tech?
advanced infantry.
All right.
No,
So how many weeks was that?
Then another 8 weeks.
Another 8 weeks.
And in that you shoot everything. I mean, I was shooting bazookas and grenades and the whole thing.
Did anybody ever get hurt during those 2 periods? Those 2 16-week? Well, the total of 16-week period.
Yeah, we had a guy who didn't have a good arm, he couldn't throw good, and they gave him a hand grenade and he tried to throw it out of a pit and it didn't go very far, so they ended up throwing stuff on top of it and there was still an explosion.
And how many people got hurt?
Nobody got hurt. Somebody threw something on it to block. They apparently had this happen occasionally,
Right.
so they were ready for it. It was scary.
I'm sure, very.
Yeah.
Gee whiz. That was a blessing.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, back to casualties or injuries. Over a 16-week period, were there any injuries?
Yeah, small stuff. I mean,
Nothing
no,
life-threatening?
I remember we were out in big trucks overnight on bivouac for a couple of nights, and I ended up with almost pneumonia. I was, so not that I was injured.
Right.
I didn't feel good for a few days,
Okay.
but there were small injuries. I don't recall anything severe or life-threatening.
Okay, cool. Do you remember your instructors at all?
A few of them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sergeant McDivitt, and when I went on to my final destination, the Honor Guard, I had Sergeant Morosic and Lieutenant, or the captain of the company was Captain Morin. His name was Mike Morin. His brother was an NFL wide receiver.
Oh, boy.
So I approached him one day, got permission to see him, and I said, I'm going to be captain of the football team this year, and I could sure use a wide receiver. And he says, why are you asking me? I says, because I know your brother's a wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. And he says, you're up to date. He says, I'll consider it. I can't make all your practices. But it turned out he came out, he played linebacker, wide receiver, and we won the Melville Area District of Washington football championship.
Wow, okay.
So he was instrumental.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Let me see. So, did you go on leave anytime during basic and the training?
Just a weekend pass into Columbia, South Carolina,
All right.
and a lot of the guys were interested in things that I wasn't, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Anybody get hurt?
No.
Okay, that's good. All right. So after basic training, you told me before, tell me about where you wound up serving.
Yeah, I actually had orders cut for Fort Lewis, Washington, 4th Infantry, and straight to Nam. And it looks like that's where I was going. About 3 days before I was due to ship out, they took the top, apparently the top, I don't know, athletically, scholastically out of our group and sent about 12 of us to Fort Myer for the Honor Guard.
Where's Fort Myer at?
Arlington, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Just outside of DC, right where the cemetery is, outside of DC.
And so you were stationed there for the entire time?
From there, I was hand selected by the captain from DC, and I went over to his unit, A Company at Fort McNair, and that's where I served the rest of my time.
Okay, well tell me about that. So what was the total amount of time you were there, like 18 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so tell me about it.
It was great. I enjoyed my time there. First day I arrived, one of the guys grabbed me and he says, you play basketball? I said, I play a little basketball. And he said, we only got 6 guys tonight, can you play? So I went down into the first year, I played with him. The second year I captained the basketball team, I captained the football team and the softball team. I was #1 on the golf team, so I did everything.
Okay.
But It was great, but it in fact got me out of some duty too. I got to go practice my sports, so it was good.
Right.
I thought I would be a professional baseball player. I was scouted by a number of the teams.
Uh-huh.
I actually had standing offers when I got drafted to be with the Red Sox and Indians.
Huh.
So when I came out, I thought that's where I'd be heading. But I got into the Army and started windmilling fast pitch softball, and I screwed my arm up, so that was pretty much put a stop to that.
Right.
So.
Did you get to travel while you were in the service?
We did a football game in Soldier Field in Chicago. We did a big halftime show for the people there.
Right.
So we flew into Chicago, and basically that was it for any big travel. We would do occasionally we'd get burial details outside of our area in Arlington, but they might be out in rural Maryland or Virginia. So we'd get in a car and drive 50, 100 miles to do a funeral.
What was it specifically you said you were going to tell me about those burial details?
The burial details were difficult. Typically, I would be on the left side, and when we folded the flag over the gravesite, the flag would end up in my hands. It was my duty to present it to the family,
Wow.
typically the widow or the mother and father. And that tore at me. That was difficult.
Right. And you had to do that each time? They didn't rotate it?
Well, we had an officer in charge at one end, and the guy opposite him was usually the next ranking. So then the guys in the middle were kind of the novices. So that's where I normally ended up. So
I can't believe that they didn't rotate that.
not too much.
Not too
Not
much.
too much. Once you get good at it, and they trusted me to do the right thing, and that was probably the most difficult part of that job.
I would imagine. So you didn't see any combat?
No.
And
Very fortunate.
nobody got hurt over that 18-month period?
Um,
Any injuries, casualties, any job-related?
Now, we would go to AP Hill in Virginia once a year during the summer and do a 2-week training to make sure our combat training was up to date in case we get drafted to,
Okay.
or what do they call it when you get, there's a word for it and I can't think of it. But
TDY, tour of duty?
they just select you and say, you gotta go, and there's a word for it and I can't think of it. But anyway, a lot of guys, they just get a notice and you're going to Vietnam. So you had to be ready for that. And,
Okay.
I thought all along my time would probably come, but it never did. I was
Didn't
very
happen.
fortunate.
All right. Okay. Tell me, you just told me about your awards and citations.
Mm-hmm.
What did you get those for again?
The one was for good conduct, and I think one of them was for participating during the Vietnam era.
Okay.
Because although I wasn't personally involved in it, I was connected to it since I was interacting with families and everything else at the grave sites.
Right. How many of those did you say you did?
I buried over 500 of our guys.
Wow.
We would do 6 to 7 a day, 3 days a week for 18 months. So a lot of people.
Did you need therapy after that?
No, I didn't.
You got through it?
Yeah,
PTSD?
no. I know a lot of guys who came back from Vietnam with it. And the Vietnam War Memorial, I still can't go to. I got too many friends I know of, and I just can't bear to do it.
Okay.
I can't bring myself to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I'm in DC, I go to the Arlington Cemetery, and I'll see the changing of the guard, because I think every American should see that at some point in their life.
Right.
But I go every chance I get.
Is that at the tomb of the
At the Tomb of the Unknown.
unknown?
The only reason I couldn't do that, I wasn't tall enough. Back in my day, you had to be 6'3"
Really?
to walk the tomb, and I'm 5'10", so there was no chance. Now, I think it's 6 foot.
Ah,
But they made the right decision, because a guy 6'3" walking that tomb was far more impressive than a guy 5'10".
Okay.
I'll give him that one.
right, okay.
It is very impressive.
Right. Okay, so, so did you go on R&R? Where'd you go?
Well, it was funny because the way it worked out, my home was literally about 10 miles from my base.
Oh, wow.
So I would,
On the weekend.
even sometimes at night, I could go home
10
and
miles.
sleep. And typically I would hitchhike across the South Capitol Street Bridge.
Right.
So I'd wear my uniform so I'd be guaranteed to get picked up.
Yeah.
And so that worked out for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's like.
I was blessed. I mean, who gets that?
Was that job like? Was it 20? It wasn't 24 hours. It was like a regular 9 to 5.
You get waking up and we do what is it, Reveille at 7 or 7:30.
Right.
Everybody break out in their uniform, and then they tell you what the jobs were for the day. Typically, we would practice carrying caskets or folding flags.
Okay.
So there was no, when you were out on the site doing it, they didn't want any breakdowns. So we would do that, and then we would practice anytime we were with us. Like when I was on the World War I drill team, it took a long time to get the steps down because it's kind of a double step when you're marching that way, and it took a little while to get used to that. But
Right.
that was one of the coolest things.
So did you or did you not get to travel overseas at all?
No, not with the military.
Not in the military.
No.
Okay. All right. So it was okay. You had no issue with staying in touch with your family.
No, they're right there.
How was the food?
3 squares a day, and I was happy.
Okay. Was the food good? Did you like it?
Food was good.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have all the supplies that you needed while you were in the service?
Yeah.
You had everything you
Yeah,
needed.
they took care of me. In basic, we were always rushed in and out of the tents to get, fed.
Right.
The food was okay. It was
Okay.
good. And it was funny, I went into the Army, I was the skinniest kid in my high school class.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons I didn't get contracts earlier. I was too small, and I was 116 pounds. But when I came out of the Army, I was 155, and I was cut.
Right.
And then I eventually went on the DC Fire Department, and I got injured pretty badly on the fire department, ended up having 5 back surgeries. And once I started having back surgeries, then I started putting weight on very easily.
Oh, yeah. That's what happens.
Yep.
Did you feel pressure or stress while you were in the service?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Beyond
the stress.
what you experienced?
Yeah, the biggest stress was dealing with the burial details.
Right.
And other than that, I was so active with sports in there, and I was running everything, and I could get to see the captain anytime I needed. The first sergeant, I had access to everybody.
Okay. When you went home on the weekends, I guess it was just like you never left, huh?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I
you just
got together with my old girlfriend.
Right.
And those are good times.
Okay.
And
Good.
my mother, my mother, she had 5 children. I was the second oldest. There were still 3 behind me. So when I go back, I'd see the, 3 younger siblings.
Yeah.
And that was good.
Good. Friends. Are you still in touch with any of your friends that you were in the service with?
Yeah, not from the Army. It's, I kept up with one guy for a little bit. And then I had 3 other really good friends who were all from Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
I still remember their names, but everyone went their separate way, and I had no way to contact them after a while. So
That happens too much. What did you think of officers and your fellow soldiers?
the interaction.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was pretty good. When I was in basic training, some of the officers I felt I was smarter than, and so I did pull a practical joke on one. When we were out doing a 10-mile walk or something,
Right.
if we were going across an intersection, he would tell the guy second in line to post and block traffic. And so one day I was in that position. He told me, guard post, and I ran out there. Well, he's supposed to tell you to recover, and he never yelled, and I stood there for 2 hours, and he was not happy with me. In fact, there were a lot of push-ups done after that.
That wasn't very nice. Okay.
But that was my way of just getting a little bit to the lieutenant.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Well, at least there was no Article 15, I guess.
No.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Did you keep a diary?
No.
Okay. All right. Tell me, besides what you already told me, 2 of your most memorable experiences.
I did get in trouble one time, and I only had a few weeks left to go.
Okay.
And there was a sergeant in my company, Sergeant Mitchell, and he didn't like me and I didn't like him. And I went out with a couple of the other guys one night, and we had a few too many, got back to the base and broke into his locker, took his dress uniforms, put them in the shower and drenched them. So the sergeant came in the next morning. He just held up the uniform. Who's responsible? And all the other guys telling us, don't give yourself up. We're with you. Don't, everybody doesn't like this guy. So we me and Paul Flatley kept our mouth shut for about 2 days.
Yeah.
And Sergeant Morosic said, okay, gentlemen, weekend, nobody goes anyplace. He says, we're going to be taking a bus over to Bowling Air Force Base tomorrow. We're going to be marching their airfield from morning till night. And so we did, and the guy said, just don't say a thing. And after 2 days of that, they said, you got to tell them. So we had to give ourselves up, and I thought I would get in big trouble with that. But my reputation there was pretty clean, and I had about 2 or 3 weeks left, so I got out of that situation with no big trouble. So,
That's one. You got another one for me?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of any of the better stories. Burial details are interesting. Normally they'd go as proposed, but we had a funeral director who fell in the hole underneath the grave, fell underneath the casket down the hole. The whole unit's bringing him back up out of that. So that was kind of unusual.
Yeah, that was.
And then another thing that was kind of interesting on a sidelight, after I'd gone into the fire department, I'm working night shift, and late one night I hear box alarm engine 3, 6, 7, 18 respond to the officers club at Fort McNair. And I said, oh boy.
So this is when you're a civilian.
Yeah, and I'm a civilian, and that's where we responded. They had a hell of a fire there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, speaking of that, do you remember so you were there when you separated?
Yes.
At where you had pulled this duty for 18 months?
Yes.
Same place. So what did you do when you got out of the service?
The second day I bought a new car and went to Florida with a buddy and looked for girls.
Okay.
And found plenty of them.
All right.
And then when I came back, I got my job back with the food store that I'd been working with. And I went back there, and there was a fireman that worked part-time there, a DC firefighter. And he came in one day and talked to me and said, this is dead end. He said, you're not going anywhere here. He says, you're very athletic, you ought to do the fire department thing. So I says, let me think about it. So I decided to take the test, and I was selected for that. So got married about the same period.
Okay.
2 kids. So
You used your GI Bill?
I used it to buy a house. Bought a house with the VA, my first house. We bought VA, no money down. And actually I took some classes with it too, fire suppression classes through the VA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get a degree?
No second degree, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you join any veterans organizations ever?
Oh boy, I had so many friends who did, but I didn't. I've been in plenty of the American Legions and a lot of the places with friends.
Right.
But I never joined.
Never joined, huh?
Because initially, I got married fairly shortly after I got out, and at that point, we started raising a family, and I kind of took care of all that, and so, and I'm not a big person to sit down and have drinks and everything, so there wasn't a lot of attraction with that.
Right.
So.
Okay. So, how many years were you with when did you retire? How many years did you do with the fire department?
I went on and got out of the Army 67. I went on the fire department 68. I went on the job 5 days after Martin Luther King had been shot. So my first day on the job, I'm driving into a city that's completely on fire. There is fire everywhere. And the cops are stopping me, saying, where are you going? I said, it's first day on the fire department. And they shook their head. Where's your uniform? They're going to give it to me when I get there. So I got there, and it was a lot of firefighting the first couple of months of being on the job. But I did 1968, 1974. I was on the fire ground. I was on the roof of a building, and the roof of the building gave way. I fell through, and an air tank on my back, but I caught myself going through by the corners of the hole, and the air tank went right through my back, and I knew immediately I was badly hurt. But I hung suspended, and 2 or 3 guys pulled me back up.
What do you mean it went through your back?
It was going like as fast as I was going. When the air tank just hit me,
Yeah.
it had to be going so fast at that point because I was stopped, dead stop, as fast as I was sailing through that building. The fire was below me, so I was fortunate that I did catch myself,
Right.
or they would have been having to save me out of there. But I worked till 1974. 74 was when I got hurt. They didn't know what to do with me. There was no CAT scans, there were no MRIs, and eventually they did what they call a myelogram, and they put you on a board in the basement of the hospital, inject dye into your back, tilt the board so the doctor can see. And he said, "You're in trouble. That's what's going on. You have 2 massive ruptured discs. You've been in a lot of pain." I said, "I've been in a lot of pain for about 8 months." And they said, "You need surgery tomorrow." So the next morning they did disc surgery, took out 2 discs. 2 years later, I took kids swimming, and as soon as I lowered myself into the pool, I felt my back explode, and I'd ruptured 2 more discs. So they took 2 more discs out in 77, and then in 95, I was having back pain. They took out a 5th disc. Then last year I had 2 back surgeries because I was having a problem with my legs. I had to decompress my legs to take the pressure off the nerves. So I've had a lot of back surgery.
So you were injured on the job, just not in the military.
That's right.
That's a government job, though.
Yeah, I was. I'll say this: they treated me
in service.
They treated me wonderfully. They retired me, 2/3 of my pay, tax free, and I get a check every month now for close to $3,600. So that with my Social Security, affords me a pretty good lifestyle. So.
Well, that's good. That's fortunate. All right. Well, tell me. I have a couple more questions for you. How did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
I remember, we were right in the middle of Vietnam, and I remember every once in a while they would take us down into a room where we never were, and the other time you get the whole company in there, and they would try to convince you why we were in Vietnam, why we're doing this and everything. And the whole country was, at that time, was doing the big protest, especially in D.C. I mean, I'd come to work sometimes and see these people protesting. And so I had mixed, after I got out of the Army, I had mixed feelings about the war. I just felt like, how long are we going to be there? How many men are we going to lose? And what are we going to win if we ever win this thing? And so I did have difficulty with that. That was tough.
Okay. All right. So how did in general, or more, I don't know, really maybe more specifically, how did your service and experiences affect your life?
Absolutely proud as can be to be an American and know that every week, every day I wake up to the freedom that my country affords me, and I love it. And when this country gets trashed by people, I get as angry as I can be. And so, hopefully we're on the right way, path now. But I don't know, we got problems. We still got problems. There are a lot of problems around the world now. And we can't solve all of them.
Right.
We can't be going to war everywhere, so I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I mean, just as an aside, as far back as I can remember, there's been a war, looking, at history itself.
Yeah.
There's always been conflicts.
Yeah.
And there still are to today, going back, before 2,000 years ago. So.
Yeah. But I love my time in the military. I love what I did, for my country.
Well, I'm going to thank you for your service and the interview. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, sir, I appreciate your coming out here, and I'm glad to provide any information I can for you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You bet.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Camera